This incredible story took place in the deep forests of Canada. John, an experienced park ranger, was patrolling a remote forested area as usual. Suddenly, he heard an unusual noise. A piercing echo echoed through the trees. The man paused, his senses heightened. The sounds resembled screams that sounded both inhuman and desperate. Despite the ringing alarm bells in his head, his instinct was telling him to listen to the sounds. With every step, he came closer. Finally, he came across a scene that exceeded all his expectations. In front of him, in the clearing, lay a bear whose front right paw had fallen into a trap. Moreover, his head was in a noose, and his hind legs were caught in the barbed wire. The bear groaned painfully with every movement. The ranger instinctively reached for his rifle. After all, an encounter with a bear wasn't a trivial matter, especially when the animal was injured. Yet this encounter was peculiar. John thought that the bear was asking for help. He set aside the fear of man versus bear that had led him initially to his rifle. He sidestepped his lingering fear now, taking a cautious approach toward the concerned bear. The man needed to approach the trap more closely to investigate, but doing so made the bear growl menacingly, a last-ditch effort at self-protection against what was perceived as a threat. Then John did something astonishing. He dropped his hunting gear, his only defense, and laid it on the ground. His disarmament was a promise not to harm. As it was, the bear slowly came down. Maybe this poor fellow had seen enough hunters in his life to know the only ones that were dangerous were those holding something. And this man's hands were now empty. But that didn't change the fact that John was putting himself in serious danger. No human being in their right mind would dare to come that close to such a huge and unpredictable predator. The ranger knelt down next to the bear and tried to win his confidence. Then he approached closer and cut the noose wrapped around the neck of the predator. The bear was strikingly calm and did not show any threatening signs towards the human beings. Then John moved to the barbed wire. Upon closer inspection, it turned out the wire had started digging into the bear's body. The animal's cries grew louder as John carefully removed the wire. In the end, the bear fell into the trap with only one paw. If John had solved this problem, the bear would have been free and could have easily attacked him. Perforce, the man had no option but to trust the animal. He mustered all his courage and released his paw from the trap. Now the bear was free. The man did not expect what happened next. Instead of jumping up, the bear remained lying in the same place. As John stepped back, he was overcome with sadness as he saw the whole picture. Deep wounds were present on the animal's fur. In a few minutes, the bear gathered all his strength and stood up. He ran a few meters and fell again. The man knelt down next to the bear and spoke soothing words. John did not want to leave the animal to its fate. After all, sooner or later poachers will find the bear and they do terrible things to it. Without much ado, John picked up the phone, dialed the local wildlife clinic, and asked for urgent help. When people arrived, the bear was immediately tranquilized and thoroughly examined. The team found that most likely for several days, the bear was stuck in this painful way and suffered from hunger and pain. An infection occurred, and surgery was needed to avoid further complications. In case of not taking any urgent measures, there was a great chance that the bear would not be able to save its leg. They helped put it carefully into the vehicle and arrived at the clinic 30 minutes later. Vets and wildlife experts collaborated to give the bear some much-needed treatment. The wounds were cleaned, antibiotics administered, and the gaping wounds carefully stitched. When the doctors were finally done with their work, a shocking truth was unveiled to John in horror. The bear wasn't a freak incident, as many other wild animals had similar injuries reported in the last few weeks. This knowledge that other animals shared the same plight infuriated John. In the following days, the bear remained heavily sedated and kept under close observation at the clinic. As the animal gradually regained its strength, hospital staff discussed the possibility of releasing it back into the wild. But John rejected this idea. There was no point in releasing the bear when there was a group of people around intent on harming him. The poor animal will get stuck again, and next time, nobody might be in luck to find it in time. The employees did agree, but they had no other choice. They just didn't have the space or means to host the bear for more than a few days. Without a second thought, John started a race against time to find the perpetrator before the bear was released. With evidence collected at the clinic, he contacted the police. An investigation into the case started with Animal Control Services. But this was not enough for John. He knew he would have to take matters into his own hands. He installed surveillance cameras in the most popular hunting spots, but it came to nothing. But on one fateful night, John was awakened by a wildlife camera alarm. Adrenaline coursed through his body. He sprang up at once and plunged into the forest, flashlight in hand. With a trembling finger, John began to follow the tracks of the big animal. The least movement in the darkness of the night made his heart pound against his chest. Soon, he understood that the steps led deeper into the forest, further into a secluded place he rarely patrolled. Suddenly the sound stopped, and an eerie silence reigned over the trees. John held his breath as he walked out into the clearing. In front of him was a newly set trap, but before he could do anything, a branch broke behind him. He turned around and saw a dark figure approaching him. He jumped on it without thinking twice and defeated him after a short but fierce struggle. It was a man who was laying traps. He called the police immediately, who arrested the man and took the rest of the evidence. The man, during interrogation, replied positively for all the crimes and showed the other places where he had laid a trap. The authorities recovered and defused all the traps. But, unexpectedly, the story turned. Over the next few days, the bear recovered and was released back into the wild. John and the team led the bear deeper into the forest. But when the bear was finally released, he did something unusual. Instead of immediately running away and hiding in the bushes, he stopped a few meters from the car and looked back for the last time. It was as if he was thanking people for their help. The rangers, including John, burst into tears now. The bear looked ahead and then vanished into the thick trees. Dear viewer, if you enjoyed this video, then please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Goodbye.